It was 6:15 a.m. when Maya Alvarez stepped off the bus and onto the corner of 3rd and Fremont in downtown Chicago. Her fingers were stiff from the early spring cold, but she carried her plastic crates with practiced ease. Each one was filled with bundles of fresh flowers, sunflowers, daffodils, roses, and lilacs, wrapped in paper she had saved from grocery store sales and old newspapers. She walked 2 blocks to her usual spot just outside a subway entrance, across from a glossy tech firm whose lobby windows gleamed like mirrors. This corner was her little kingdom. She set up her makeshift stand, a folding table with legs that wobbled unless wedged with a piece of cardboard, then arranged the flowers as she always did, sunflowers in the center, flanked by colors that warmed the eyes. People walked past without looking at her. Most had earbuds in, faces pointed toward their phones or the sidewalks, as if making eye contact would delay their day. A few regulars gave a quick nod. One man in a tailored navy coat grunted when she greeted him. Maya smiled anyway. Every day she reminded herself that this was her choice. She wasn't begging. She was selling beauty. Still, some people didn't see it that way. By 7:10, a group of young interns from the building across the street had gathered near the corner, sipping chain coffee and scrolling their screens. One of them, tall, pale, with square glasses, snickered just loud enough for her to hear. "Yo, she's here again. Flower lady. Doesn't she know florists use apps now?" Another chuckled. "I mean, do people still buy flowers on the street? That's like grandma stuff." They laughed, not maliciously but carelessly, the way people do when they don't see you as real. Maya didn't flinch. She just adjusted the corner of her paper wrapping and went back to arranging. Inside, she was used to it. People had been mocking her since she was 13 and started selling roses from a bucket at train stations in Queens. First, they mocked her English. Then her clothes. Later, they mocked her dream, to one day open a floral cafe where people could sip coffee while surrounded by walls of green and color, like walking into a painting. Her mother used to tell her, "Let them laugh. You are planting something they can't see yet." Maya believed that. Even now, even when it felt like everyone else had already moved into a future built on screens and shortcuts, she held on to the idea that touch still mattered, that the right flower in the right moment could still make someone's day better. At 8:45, a woman in her 40s, wearing a gray suit and red heels, stopped by the table. Maya recognized her as someone who worked in the building nearby. She always paused at the light, but rarely bought anything. Today, the woman picked up a bouquet of yellow tulips and examined them. "These fresh?" she asked. "Yes, picked yesterday. My cousin helps run a farm in Aurora. I get them straight from there." The woman nodded, then pulled out a $10 bill. "I'll take them. My daughter's been having a hard week." Maya wrapped the bouquet quickly, tying it with a green ribbon. "Tell her tulips mean hope in tough times." The woman smiled for the first time. "Do they?" "They do," Maya said. The woman paused. "You're good at this, you know." Maya shrugged. "It's what I love." After she left, Maya allowed herself a quiet breath. One sale, $10. Enough for lunch and bus fare back. Maybe a few extra stems tomorrow. By noon, the crowd had thinned. The tech firm's employees were mostly indoors. The interns had disappeared, their laughter replaced by briefcases and elevator dings. That's when the man arrived. He wasn't dressed like the others. No suit, no lanyard. Just a dark wool coat and a backpack slung casually over one shoulder. His beard was short, salt and pepper. His shoes were clean but practical. Maya noticed him because he didn't walk past. He stopped. He examined the flowers quietly for a moment, then picked up a small bunch of ranunculi. "These yours?" he asked. "I arranged them," Maya said. "The flowers are grown outside the city. I go twice a week." He nodded. "You know, this is one of the best displays I've seen. And I've seen a lot. You studied floristry." "Self-taught," she said. "I've read books, watched videos, practiced every day." He smiled slightly, then looked at her stand more carefully. "You even grouped by warmth. Most shops don't do that." Maya was surprised. "You know flowers?" "I know presentation," he said. He reached into his coat and pulled out a black wallet, handing her a $50 bill. "I'll take the ranunculus and those lilacs." Maya quickly wrapped them, hesitant about the bill. "I don't have enough change." "Keep it," he said. She stared at him. "That's too much." "It's not about the flowers," he replied. "It's about someone who still believes in what they're doing." With that, he turned and walked away. No business card. No name. Just a stranger who saw her. Maya stood still for a moment, the bill in her hand. Something about the encounter lingered. People bought flowers every day. But no one ever spoke like that. No one ever noticed how she arranged by warmth or tied stems a certain way to prevent wilting. He saw her, and that changed everything. The Monday after her quiet encounter with the mysterious man, Maya returned to her flower stand like clockwork. The weather was warmer, and the first hints of late spring were in the air. Tulip season would soon fade, but peonies were starting to bloom. She had already picked out a few pastel bunches from her cousin's farm, knowing they'd sell well to young women on their lunch breaks. Still, she couldn't stop thinking about the man with the salt and pepper beard. He hadn't left a name or card. No way to trace him. Yet something about the way he'd looked at her flowers, at her setup, had stirred a kind of curiosity she hadn't felt in years. You even grouped by warmth, he'd said. That was something only a trained florist or someone deeply observant would say. Maya wondered if he was a designer. Or a chef. Maybe someone in fashion. Whoever he was, he'd seen her work for what it was, not as street-side hustle, but as art. By Wednesday, a ripple of change began. It started small. 2 women in clean, minimalist dresses walked past her stand, stopped, and circled back. "Are you the one who sold flowers to Mr. Hunt?" one of them asked. Maya blinked. "I'm sorry, who?" "Gavin Hunt," the other said, whispering like the name carried weight. "From Halston Capital." Maya said nothing for a beat. "I'm not sure. Someone bought flowers the other day. I didn't catch his name." "Well," the first woman said, smiling, "he apparently wouldn't stop talking about you in a board meeting yesterday. Said someone should invest in people who still work with their hands. That the world's full of products, but not enough craft." Maya blinked again. "He said that." The second nodded. "Exactly that. And he's not known for flattery." They each bought a small bouquet. One peony, the other hyacinths. They even tipped her $5. By Friday, she noticed more people in suits walking slower as they passed. Some still didn't stop, but a few glanced her way with something closer to curiosity than dismissal. One man even said, "You're the one Mr. Hunt mentioned, right?" before awkwardly buying a bouquet of tulips and hurrying off. That night, as she was packing up her table, a man in a crisp gray vest approached her with a clipboard and a leather messenger bag. "Are you Maya Alvarez?" he asked. "Yes," she replied slowly. "I'm Noah Berman. I work with Halston Capital. Mr. Hunt asked me to get in touch. He's hoping you'll accept an invitation to speak with him. He believes you might be interested in a conversation about scale." Maya stared at him. Scale. Possibly building a retail concept around what you do. Flowers. Human connection. Something different. But he wants to hear your vision first. Maya wasn't sure what to say. The word retail concept sounded like it belonged in a commercial. She didn't have a pitch deck. She didn't even have a website. What she had was heart and hustle and 10 years of experience blending colors in freezing weather. "Do I need to prepare something?" she asked cautiously. Noah smiled. "Just bring yourself. And maybe your story. That's what matters most." They arranged a meeting for the following Tuesday at a rooftop cafe near the river. Maya went home that night more nervous than she'd been in years. She sat at her tiny kitchen table with a pencil and stack of lined paper and started writing. Not a business plan, just thoughts. Why she started selling flowers. Why she insisted on fresh over imported. How her grandmother taught her that carnations symbolize pride, that roses can say love or apology depending on the color, and how everything in nature had meaning if you looked close enough. She fell asleep with her head on the table, fingers still curled around the pencil. The morning of the meeting, she wore the nicest thing she owned, a navy blouse and black slacks she'd saved for job interviews. Her shoes were worn but polished. She wrapped her hair in a braid and clipped in the gold flower pin her aunt had given her at graduation. When she arrived at the cafe, she immediately recognized the man from that day, the quiet buyer with the thoughtful eyes. Gavin Hunt. He stood as she approached, extended a hand. "Maya, thank you for coming." "Thank you for inviting me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. They sat down, and for the first few minutes, it wasn't business at all. He asked about her upbringing, how she got into flowers, where she sourced them, what her favorite bloom was this season. "Lilacs," she said. "They remind me of my mother. Soft scent. A little wild." Gavin nodded. "I can see that. They don't last long, but while they do, they take over the air." Then he leaned forward slightly. "I'll be direct. The world doesn't need another flower shop. But it does need places that slow people down, that bring memory and meaning into their day. When I bought those lilacs from you, I didn't just walk away with flowers. I walked away feeling human. Maya blinked. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Say whatever your dream is, he replied. If you had the chance, if money wasn't the barrier, what would you build? Maya stared down at her hands. She hadn't told anyone the full version of her vision in years. I want to create a place where people can buy flowers, yes, but also sit for a moment. Drink coffee. Read. Maybe write a letter. A place where every flower has a card explaining its meaning. Where people remember what it feels like to choose something beautiful and give it away without needing a reason. Gavin didn't speak right away. Then he nodded. I think that's what the world needs too. He opened a leather folder and slid a card across the table. This is my assistant's info. I want to help you build this. Start with a pop-up. Then, if the city responds, we go bigger. Maya stared at the card. Her chest rose with something between disbelief and trembling hope. I'm not a brand, she said softly. No, Gavin replied. You're better. You're real. He stood and shook her hand. And just like that, her world shifted. Maya had always believed in patience. Flowers taught her that, how seeds waited underground for months before blooming, how you couldn't force a rose to open without breaking it. But now, for the first time in years, things were happening faster than she could process. 3 days after her meeting with Gavin Hunt, she got a call from his assistant, Lena, a precise woman who spoke with the rhythm of someone who organized million-dollar deals before breakfast. We've secured a space in the Fulton Market District, Lena said. It's a shared-use venue with rotating pop-ups. You'd have 2 weeks. Rent's covered. You just need to bring the experience. Maya stood in the middle of her living room, staring at the faded rug she'd inherited from her mother. You mean I'd set up like a store? Think of it like your flower stand, but elevated. Controlled space. Lighting. Ambience. Think theater. Maya didn't sleep much that night. She spent hours sketching layouts on printer paper. How she'd display blooms in old milk crates. How she'd hang dried lavender from strings across the ceiling. She wrote out flower meanings in cursive, practicing until her wrist ached. She wanted every detail to carry intention. She called her cousin at the flower farm. Can you get me 70 stems of ranunculus? And something wild, like Dusty Miller or Fern. He didn't ask why. He just said yes. Her landlord let her use the basement for prep, and Maya spent the weekend dyeing linen cloths in turmeric and beetroot. The colors were imperfect but warm, like home. On opening day, the pop-up didn't look like much from the outside, just a reclaimed garage with a painted black sign that read the wild petal in hand-lettered script. But inside, sunlight filtered through hanging eucalyptus and mason jars of water sparkled with stems in every shade of spring. Maya wore a cotton apron with pockets and her flower pin. She wasn't trying to be trendy. She just wanted to be herself. The first hour was slow. A few curious pedestrians wandered in, sniffed, smiled politely. One woman took photos and left without buying anything. Then, around 11 a.m., 2 young women entered. One wore a bright yellow coat. The other had tear-smudged mascara. We read about this place on LinkedIn, the one in yellow said. You're the street florist, right? Maya smiled gently. I guess I am. The one with mascara pointed to a stem of daffodils. What's that one mean? Rebirth, Maya said. And resilience. The woman nodded. I just lost my job. I think I'll take 3. They left with small paper-wrap bundles tied with yarn. One posted a photo and tagged Maya's makeshift Instagram account. The caption read, I didn't know I needed a flower today, but I did. Thank you. By the end of the second day, Maya had nearly sold out. More people arrived with each passing hour, some from nearby offices, others who'd driven in from other parts of the city just to see if the story was real. The blog posts had started again. One called her the soul florist. Another asked, can you build a business on emotion? On the 5th day, Maya noticed a familiar face, Claire Hemsworth, editor at City Table magazine. Maya had sent them emails years ago. They never replied. I came to see what the fuss was about, Claire said, inspecting a bucket of pale pink peonies. Maya didn't offer a pitch. She just handed her a flower and said, that one means healing. Claire smiled. The next day, the magazine published a full spread titled, The Woman Who's Teaching Manhattan to Slow Down. The article wasn't about her hustle. It was about her intention. Maya cried when she read the part that said, she isn't just selling flowers. She's selling the act of remembering. That night, Gavin stopped by after closing. "You've started something," he said, sipping a chamomile tea she had made from dried blossoms. "The city's listening." "I'm not sure I'm ready for more," she admitted. "This already feels like a dream I'm barely holding on to." He nodded. "But look how far you've come. From folding tables to magazine covers in 1 month." "I never wanted to be famous," she said quietly. "I know. That's why it's working. Because you're not chasing the light, you are the light." They stood in silence for a moment, the soft glow of hanging bulbs casting amber tones over bundles of lilac and rose. Then Gavin reached into his pocket and handed her a check. "Seed money," he said, "for a permanent location. No strings. No deadlines. Just build it like you built this, one heart at a time." Maya looked at the number and covered her mouth. It wasn't a fortune, but it was more than she'd ever seen on a single piece of paper. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," he said, nodding toward the daffodils still in a bucket. "The first time you handed me hope wrapped in paper." As he walked out, Maya stood alone in the pop-up, surrounded by petals and the faint scent of thyme. She didn't feel mocked anymore. She felt rooted. Winter gave way to spring as Maya stepped into a life she had once only imagined through frosted bus windows and late-night sketches on napkins. With Gavin's seed money and the echo of viral articles still reverberating across social media, she began scouting locations for her first permanent shop. Real estate agents took her seriously now. They returned her calls. They called her Ms. Santiago. Some even recognized her from the city table feature and tried to offer spaces double her budget. But Maya wasn't interested in polished storefronts or trendy streets. She wanted something real, something with cracks, something with stories. She found it one rainy morning in Soho, a corner unit with chipped green tiles and old wooden beams. It had once been a tailor shop. The windows were dusty, the floor uneven, and there was no working bell on the door. But when she stepped inside, she felt it. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "This is where they'll come." The space needed work, but not erasure. Maya preserved the original shelving, sanded the counters by hand, and left the initials of the former owner etched into the windowsill. She wanted people to feel like they were entering something that had always existed, like finding a secret garden growing in the cracks of a city. She called the store Flor del Alma, Soul Flower. She opened without a grand announcement. No launch party, no influencers. Just a sign made of repurposed barn wood and an open door. And yet people came. They came with purpose and stories, not shopping lists. A woman brought her teenage daughter, saying they had fought that morning and wanted to apologize. A man came in with an old photo of his mother holding peonies. A nurse arrived after a 12-hour shift just to smell the lavender. Maya didn't sell bouquets. She sold moments. Each arrangement came with a handwritten card that explained the meaning of the blooms. Sometimes people cried. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they stood silently and held the flowers like they were holding memory. The press came again, but Maya was careful this time. She agreed to interviews only if they focused on the message, not her personal story. She didn't want to be a headline. She wanted to be a bridge. A few weeks after opening, she heard the bell-less door creak and turned to find a woman in a dark blue pantsuit standing near the threshold. Maya recognized her immediately. It was the woman from a finance office. The one who had thrown away her flowers and called security. The woman looked different now, her posture more cautious, her eyes less certain. "I wasn't sure you'd remember me," she said. "I remember everyone who throws my work in the trash," Maya replied evenly. But her voice wasn't cruel, just honest. The woman swallowed. "I saw the article. And your shop. I came to say, I'm sorry." Maya nodded once. "Thank you. I don't expect forgiveness." Maya turned to the wall behind her, where bunches of rosemary and eucalyptus hung, like blessings. "I'm not in the business of grudges," she said, "but I am in the business of growth." The woman stepped forward. "Do you sell arrangements for new beginnings?" Maya smiled. "That's my specialty." She made her a small bundle, snowdrops for hope, rosemary for remembrance, and yellow freesia for renewal. She wrapped it carefully and handed it over without asking for payment. That afternoon, the woman posted about the visit. The caption read, "Once, I threw away her flowers. Today, she gave me more." Some people build businesses. Others build bridges. It was shared over 50,000 times in 2 days. But Maya didn't check the metrics. She didn't care about the numbers anymore. She cared about the man who walked in on his lunch break with a broken heart and left holding 3 tulips for his ex-girlfriend. She cared about the girl who brought her sick dog in and asked for petals to press into a memory book. She cared about the little boy who gave her a quarter from his pocket and asked for just one nice flower for my grandma. One day, a young florist from Philadelphia messaged her. I was mocked at my first market. People said no one wants flowers anymore. But then, I found your story. You reminded me why I started. Thank you for keeping the soil soft for the rest of us. Maya responded with a photo of a daffodil in sunlight and the words, "Bloom anyway." On a quiet Wednesday morning, Gavin visited the shop. He watched Maya working with a mother and daughter, helping them pick out blooms for the daughter's graduation. She knelt down, eye level with the girl, and explained the meaning of each flower like she was giving her a map for the road ahead. When the pair left, Gavin turned to Maya. "You realize what you've created here?" he asked. She wiped her hands on her apron. "A flower shop." "No," he said. "A sanctuary." Maya looked around the small space. The sun poured through the dusty windows, illuminating bundles of hydrangeas and marigolds. Wind stirred the dried herbs hanging by the door. A soft hum of laughter floated from the back, where an elderly couple browsed together. She felt her chest swell with something she hadn't had in years. Pride, but not the kind you boast about. The quiet kind. The rooted kind. The kind that grows in a sidewalk crack. "I guess I finally found where I belong," she said. Gavin smiled. "And you built it with petals." Maya shook her head gently. "No, I built it with belief." Summer melted into fall, and Flor del Alma became more than a shop. It became a community ritual. Neighbors stopped by not just to buy flowers, but to talk, to heal, to leave behind little parts of themselves, and pick up something softer in return. Maya had started something she couldn't have mapped in a business plan. She had turned survival into service. The girl who was once mocked on the corner for selling roses was now mentoring high schoolers about dignity in creative work. She held weekend workshops for kids and offered a pay-what-you-can bouquet hour every Friday. The shop's walls held stories. She kept a journal by the register where people could leave notes anonymously. Some were funny, some heartbreaking, some raw. One entry read, "I came here to buy flowers for my mom's birthday, but I ended up realizing I needed to forgive her first. Thank you." Another said, "This shop smells like the home I never had." But even as her reputation grew and offers began rolling in from franchise scouts, investors, even television producers, Maya stayed grounded. She refused to expand just for the sake of growth. Every flower she sold, she still arranged herself or with the help of a small team she trained personally. She rejected the label of influencer and never called herself a CEO. She called herself a caretaker. Of stories. Of roots. Of beauty that doesn't ask permission to exist. One Saturday afternoon, Gavin returned to the shop with a quiet smile. He held an envelope in his hand. "I want to show you something," he said, gesturing toward a nearby cafe. Over cups of mint tea, he slid the envelope across the table. Maya opened it and found a brochure. On the cover was a photo of a glass-walled cultural center. Inside, she read about an upcoming exhibit titled Bloom Anyway, Women Who Change the Streets with Art and Grit. "You're the first profile," Gavin said. Maya stared at the page, stunned. "They want to feature your story, your stall, the first bouquet, the napkins you wrote your flower meanings on. You'll be side by side with street painters, food cart revolutionaries, and musicians who turn sidewalks into sanctuaries." She laughed quietly. "I don't know if I belong in a museum." He looked at her. "You don't belong behind glass, no. But your story does. So other girls know they can make something sacred, even if they start on the sidewalk." Maya said yes. The exhibit opened 3 months later. A replica of her first stall stood in the center, complete with silk roses, and the old milk crate she used as a seat. There was even an audio installation. Passers-by could pick up headphones and hear voices of customers reading journal entries from Flor del Alma. One recording was Maya herself, reading the first message she ever wrote on a card. "This flower means strength without thorns." People wept. People took pictures. People asked where her shop was. And still, Maya went back to her corner store every morning. She watered the plants. She swept the floor. She welcomed strangers as if they were already known. One rainy evening, a teenage girl stood hesitantly outside the shop's open door. She had a soggy paper bag in her hand with wilted daisies inside. "I tried selling these all day," she said, not making eye contact. "Nobody wanted them." Maya looked at the flowers, then at the girl. "Come inside," she said. Let me show you how to help them stand tall again." The girl entered, shivering slightly. Maya offered her tea and gently unwrapped the daisies. With patience and care, she trimmed the stems, refreshed the water, and added eucalyptus for balance. The girl watched silently. "How did you know how to fix them?" "Because I've been where they are," Maya said. "A little bent, a little tired, but still worth saving." The girl stayed until close. Before she left, Maya handed her a small card. It read, "No one can take away your bloom. They can only delay it." When the door closed behind her, Maya looked at the flowers on her table. Some were vibrant, some were fading. All of them had a place. And that was what she had built, not a business, not a brand, but a belief. That even if the world mocked you, even if it tried to dim your colors, even if it left you in the rain, you could still bloom anyway. She locked the door, turned off the lights, and smiled at the quiet. The street that once laughed at her had grown quiet too, but not because it had forgotten her, because it had learned to listen.